So thank you all for coming. We're gonna start with the data center ordinance, or the draft of the data center ordinance. We have, Deanna, our engineer, with us. Nicole, is, Rich on the Zoom call?
Rich first?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, Rick's gonna join us too. So this discussion began, at our last meeting. Bridget from Penn Future, who drafted the Monroe County ordinance, was here. And Todd has since drafted, the copy that y'all have, that we're gonna cover. So, who wants to start?
So you're all aware of what a data center is? It's the cloud. If you ever wondered, where's the cloud? It's a bank of hard drives that store all that information that you put out there. They are typically tend to take up many, many acres with many, many buildings, and they require a lot of water for their cooling systems. In Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, because we're a commonwealth and every municipality is responsible for its own land use decision-making, if we do not specifically have in our ordinance a land use type spelled out, then the courts have determined that it's a by right use. And it can be, and it could go anywhere. It could go in a residential neighborhood because we have not specifically adopted an ordinance to address it. So that's why we're doing this, because there is a huge push in the northeastern United States to put in data centers. Township is going through this right now. They have a huge data center proposed, with nothing on the books. So we wanted to try and get out in front of this rather than wait for it to be at our doorstep. And that's why we're doing this now. And because it requires an amendment to the zoning ordinance, it will have to go through the process that the blighted property ordinance is going through right now. So it has to be reviewed by the planning commission prior to us making any final draft available. But we're glad you're all out to talk about this. And any questions about what a data center is?
No, but is there a difference between what was at the door and what was handed out?
Yeah, I think what was at the door, the original copy was duplexed front and back, and it only copied one page. So.
Yeah, if you want an update.
I have one of each.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one was,
Printing messed up.
yeah,
Understood, thank you.
it's like a whole page typo there. Interesting.
Okay. All right. Hey, so you want to see, Deanna, our engineer, has had some experience with these, so maybe she should finish us first.
I have.
Recommendation.
I just with ordinances and going through them. So I did go through the ordinance that was created, I guess that Todd put together, and then the references in regards to the other townships. So going through, I'm just gonna put out, you guys have all gone through them, right?
Mhm.
And I guess I'm just gonna start saying some things that I think I would like to either discuss to add into it. So, I mean, pretty much the beginning is your basic definitions. Then it talks about what the data storage centers are, and then of course, like with the equipment and everything too, which is like the most noisy part of the data center. And then you get into the discussions of like, okay, so 525.23G, which is on page 3. 4 talks about your buffer yards and evergreen trees and everything like that. And I think it's 100-foot buffer required from trees. The only other thing I was thinking about is the noisy part, of course, is the data center equipment. There's nothing in here about a distance from a residential structure. So I didn't know if that was something you wanted to consider, because sometimes you know how some of your older lots have a house that's like right close to a property line, and 100 foot, I mean, is going to be then pretty much your buffer. So I didn't know if you wanted to add something additional in regards to a residential dwelling, for a buffer between specifically the equipment too, the data center equipment too. I don't know if you want me to go through these recommendations, you want to discuss them and then go on to the next one, how you want to do this?
Well, I think it might be easier to think about each one.
Yeah, okay.
So when I looked at, was it 18.4, the 100-foot buffer,
Mm-hmm.
when I compared it to, the other samples we had, they were talking about 200 feet from, property lines. And then one of the samples said 300 feet from a road. I don't know if we want to go that far, or if it's 200 feet rather than 100 feet.
Yeah, I mean, your minimum parcel area is a 5-acre property, but 100-foot buffer. I mean, 100 foot is not really that much of a buffer. And that's why I said, I think in a way, just specifically mention residential structure, because sometimes there's the older lots, it might be in a different zone and it's a residential house that's on it too.
Yeah.
So, that's what I was gonna say, maybe just something like that. I mean, the buffer width is up to you guys. I mean, 200, I don't know, from a residential structure is pretty cautious. And I mean, I haven't really been next to a data center to see how noisy these get either. I have no idea.
And I think there is something further in here that talks about decibel levels.
Yeah,
There-
it does.
Study shall be performed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get to. What do you guys think about, 200-foot buffer, or what are you comfortable with?
Say 250.
250?
Yeah.
250, Darryl?
Well, yeah, and it has to be maintained with evergreen cover, so.
Yeah, that's in here also.
Like we do with the cell towers.
All right, so 250.
So I'm gonna make a statement here, and I'm kind of frustrated. So after the last guy came in and it was on the agenda with data centers, I did a tremendous amount of research. And that sits on my desk because I had no clue what you guys were talking about tonight. Obviously, you guys did. You have Deanna here, you have this here. Why couldn't you give me like
When,
a little bit of heads up of what you guys were gonna talk about?
when,
And I brought all my research with me so I can make suggestions, but it sits on my desk because, again, transparency, it's all a secret with you guys.
when I say grant, at the time, we had the county sample ordinance, we had the Jackson Township ordinance and the pool
You're
ordinance.
missing my point. I'm saying.
And I
how-
said that if anybody wanted to look them up before we had a chance to have the meeting,
Mhm.
or they could come by the office and ask for those samples.
I did all that research on my own. It sits on my desk because I had no clue we were talking about this tonight.
The workshop meetings are open to everything.
Correct. And
So-
you guys knew you were talking about the data centers tonight when you posted the meeting in the Zoom. How come it couldn't be on that list? Number one, agenda, we're gonna talk about data centers. And then maybe the gentleman who had a lot of experience on it, maybe I could have brought my paperwork. Maybe I would have been more prepared on it. I feel like you guys are blindsiding the public when you're bringing up very, very important information that you're asking on our input for. But here we are, we walk in, this sits on the table, Deanna's here, she's prepared. You thought Rich Furs was gonna log in, and all you guys went over this ahead of time. How come we don't know? It's very, very frustrating when you're asking the public to be involved, but you can't give us a 1-day notice on, hey, we're gonna talk about data centers. So we show up, I did a lot of work on this, I have a lot of information and notes, but I don't have it with me because I have no clue what's going on.
They should table it.
Well, no, this is a work, that's what this is for. We cannot vote on anything. We can't, it's a workshop. So we just got the,
How come you guys didn't give us a notice?
I understand what you're saying. Rick.
Thank you,
And
I
we should,
appreciate that there. And that's all I have to say about it. And you wonder why everybody's frustrated? There you go, a little bit of frustration. So continue on, I'm sorry, I'm just frustrated because we have no clue what's going on in these
Grant.
meetings.
Grant, did you go through the paperwork?
I did,
Do you have any idea of buffers?
So, to be honest with you, I do, and I think 100 feet is a little bit short.
Okay.
But I also have a lot of notes, and I have all the other townships, and, you know, off the top of my head, I don't have it with me, I took notes, I don't retain information like that, I have a maxed out load, but I also have a list of paperwork this thick on this, sitting on my desk. So what, now I drive home, so we can continue this conversation? You brought your notes, Patty, you were prepared, I appreciate that. But I wasn't afforded that
At the
opportunity.
time, when we first talked about data centers, and I told you where you could get the
We
information,
have the
I
information.
said we were going to discuss it at the workshop. And one of the things about workshops is we're going to talk about several things going on.
Great. Well,
I'm
I would
sorry that
appreciate
you're not
it,
prepared.
1 day heads up. Is it too much to ask? I don't think so.
So what are you looking for? An
Okay.
agenda? Like
I
a
would
bulleted list?
love, and again, I know workshops go off this way, go this way, we talk about this, we don't talk about this, but you guys all clearly knew we were talking about data centers tonight. You could have put it on some sort of note or agenda yesterday. You posted the Zoom link, everybody got that. How come the next bullet point couldn't be, we're talking about data centers? And then you might have had more people with good ideas that dealt with it. You would have had my notes for sure. But we're not given that privilege, and it's so frustrating. It's almost like, you know, believe me, the Facebook stuff goes all over the place on transparency. Some of it I believe, some of it I don't. But all you guys knew that we were talking about this. Did any of you guys know we were talking about data centers?
Nope, sure did.
How would
Now,
you?
but you had to know because you got all the information. You knew.
I knew
Yeah,
it was
we all
coming
make that
up.
contribute.
So I should guess what meeting it should be? So I'm supposed to guess, Patty.
I'm sorry.
He's just prepared for whenever it comes up.
So I should carry around my big notebook every time, depending on what you guys decide to talk about in a workshop. A simple bullet point on that agenda that, or on the Zoom meeting that was posted yesterday, I would have known.
Thank you.
Thank you. But no, I don't think 100 foot's enough. Yes.
I have a general question only because I'm not familiar with what goes on in Monroe County. Does Monroe County?
Excuse me,
have-
can you please take a step to the microphone and just state your name and who you are, please? Thank you.
My name is Ellie Berkowitz. I live here
Oh,
in Canada.
no, it's not on.
I have a general question.
I'm sorry.
I see that. Okay, my name is Ellie Berkowitz. I live here in Canadensis, and I have a general question only because I'm not familiar with what goes on in Monroe County. Does Monroe County have any mines that used to be operational here that are now not?
Define mine, not to be a wise guy, but you mean like an anthracite,
Okay.
pit
What
and shaft,
I'm
or?
getting at is the few minutes that I had sitting here before the meeting started. There is a mine, there is a data center called Iron Mountain in Pennsylvania. That's in a underground, what used to be a mine. And there are many benefits to having mines underground.
So we, yes, no,
No,
Monroe County. And, that's why we have the finest freshwater ecosystems on the planet.
okay, thank you for.
Thank you.
But we do have mining. There's a peat mine, there's an active peat mine, and there's surface quarrying, but we don't have any pit mines, no shaft mines wherever done in Monroe County.
So we're on 250 foot.
Not really.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Mary, Mill Creek Estate. Number one is minimum lot requirement for area is 5 acres. Considering how large the gentleman in Tobyhanna said the acreage was at a data center required. Can you hem it in by putting a minimum and a maximum? So if say they wanted whatever.
Right, but you have to have 100 acres in order to even be considered.
Right, but also a
And you can't-
maximum, you can't have a piece of space that is larger than these many acres, than if they needed whatever, 5,000 acres, and we said you couldn't have more than 400 acres, then they couldn't put one here.
I don't know if you can do that, actually. That's an attorney question about restricting. Yeah, that's a legal thing.
What,
I don't know.
Minimum.
That's
So if
that's
they bought
probably
like a
legal.
100-acre parcel and need a giant data center, is that what you're saying?
That,
Well, the one in
Yeah, so if
Toby
the
Hannah is
data
gonna be
center has a
180.
minimum requirement of X amount of acres.
Mhm.
And we don't grant them that many acres because our ordinance says, well, you can only have a plot of.
so it's maximum development. You're limiting their development is what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to talk to Todd about that, if you can actually limit that, because I don't know, it comes into the thing if they wanna put in something and you put a restriction on that part of it, like, we're putting restrictions to kind of curb them the way they want, like a conditional use, they have to go for a hearing, but if they have a certain size facility and they need this and you don't have it fit in your ordinance or in location, I don't know if you can do that, that's what I'm saying. So that is an attorney thing that I would have to. Oh, yeah, we can
Yeah.
ask. No, yeah, no problem. But yeah, I
You
just,
can restrict it. I mean,
Yeah.
you can restrict them to only the parts of the township that are already zoned
Yes.
industrial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Todd's not here to say, I'm not an attorney.
I'll make
but,
notes.
He did send to us the fact that there has to be, all right, in our industrial zone, there has to be parcels that we don't put so many constrictions on them that they can't build one at all. Yeah, are you getting my
Yeah,
meaning
yeah.
here?
Yeah.
So they're, right, that's really how it is.
Yeah, you have
Like,
to.
we can't go in and say that there has to be a 350-foot buffer from every wetland and stream, and although I would love to do that, right? If that means that there are now no parcels developable. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we went as small as 5 acres because they're proposing them that small now. Right, because you could get a little, as almost as big as like a double wide, put it in there.
Okay. Thank
But so that's kind of the fine line that we have to.
Sean Allen, I live here in Kansas.
Can you please go to the microphone, just so everything is uniform, please, everybody, if you're going to speak? Thank you.
Sean Allen, I live here in Kansas. So these are identified as buffers. How much of a difference is it for a setback?
So setbacks are, there's a definition in the ordinance. A setback is usually your building setbacks. So when you talk about setback, so that's where you can build your structure. Now, I don't know, we didn't get into that, and I don't think that's even summarized in here for where they can actually place the building. So buffers is any amenity associated with that development. So in other words, if there's parking or like a parking facility that's adjacent to that would still have to maintain the 100-foot buffer, but it wouldn't have to necessarily maintain the building setback. So usually you have building setbacks, which I don't think is summarized in here, right? We don't have anything.
Doesn't it just go by like anything in industrial has setbacks?
Yeah, so that would be the industrial zone. You're right. Sorry, that was stupid of me, but yeah. But yeah, so the building setback is different than a buffer yard.
So then if, like we identified as, I guess if it's gonna be in a different ordinance for the setback.
In the regular zoning ordinance, the setbacks for, this is.
What is
this
industrial?
refers For only industrial. So in the zoning ordinance, it will state for industrial district, it's like whatever, 50 feet, whatever it is from every side. That's already set in zoning for the industrial district. So it wouldn't be in here separate because it applies to anything in industrial.
We can pull that up what the zoning setbacks are. You can establish separate setbacks for the
Within the-
facility, for that particular use, I'm pretty sure about that. So if you want to establish a setback too, that's different.
Be the same as the buffers?
No, it can do different. So that's why I said a buffer is anything for that development, but then a setback is for a building specifically. So I'm assuming your industrial setbacks are probably not 100
No,
No.
they're,
foot.
front's 50, side 15, rear 25.
So
they're
that's
there.
the same as residential.
So,
It's on page 4 on top.
yeah, so then you could probably look at trying to establish different building setbacks.
Could say it's not different from one, get a variance.
I mean, your 100-foot buffer is gonna regulate it and throw it at the 100-foot because it's a buffer and everything has to be out of it. So it's still gonna, regulate it that it will go to the 100 foot. That's what's gonna kick in over it. So that's probably what Todd will tell us. That we probably don't have to specifically. But I can ask Todd about that, but I'm pretty sure the 100 foot will just regulate the buildings, but it will regulate everything else, like any parking facilities associated with it or anything like that. Any type of facility that's accessory to it will still be within that 100 foot buffer setback part. So, but if you want to go stricter on the building part, then you can.
But the buffer is saying that it has to be a vegetated screening buffer.
Yeah,
They have
you can't do any
250
development. Yes,
Forest,
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
And then if they have an area that isn't already woods, then they come in and they have to plant evergreen trees.
But yeah, do screening.
Over that 250 feet of buffer and fill that in. And there's specifics to how tall they have to be to start with and,
Should they be consistent so you can't get a variance? Because there may not be a home next door right now, but they could apply for a variance.
You have, the only way you can get a variance, you have to show hardship for something.
As long as they couldn't apply for something.
I mean,
Those are different setbacks or different. So.
I mean, I can't see how, if you're not meeting your buffer yards and you go for a variance, you have to show because of some type of constraints on the property that there's no way you could build your facility. That's what he was saying. If you restricted that parcel so much that you can't put that facility there, then you could get your zoning variance if they went in for it. But if you can still get something on that lot, you're not showing hardship then and saying that you can go into that buffer. So I don't think they would be able to get that by just saying I need to go a little bit bigger, you know what I'm saying? And if I could get the same thing and going smaller and it works on that property, I don't think that would be able to get a variance for that.
I was just replying, you mentioned, conditional uses. Are we making this a permitted use in industrial or it's gonna be all conditional, just conditional? All right, thank you.
So when we were talking about buffers, you guys were saying about taking the 100 to the 250 is what you're saying? And then that's for around the whole property going to 250. And then are we doing anything on residential structures? You're just going to stay with the 250 and that just 250 on their property to property line before they do any development, right? Okay. Is there anything else on that one with the buffers?
the only other thing that I was looking at is that, we don't want them to go in and cut everything down like they did in Mount Pocono, that they cut every tree down and then they started planting trees in a row.
Well,
So if there's something that we can put in for,
I think
if there's an existing forest already, you can't cut
Right,
that down.
maintain
and
that.
plant a bunch
Well,
of
you-
6 foot tall.
they have to do an environmental impact assessment. That's something I'll get into. That part is gonna show your existing woods and everything. So when you're coming into a conditional use hearing, they're gonna be showing what the existing features are. And I mean, that's the thing about a conditional use hearing, because they're going in front of the board. So if they're saying that they're gonna cut and do that, I mean, you can say, no, it's part of the condition. We do not want that. So, I mean, you can put the condition on it.
Okay.
So, but yeah, they're gonna be coming in with an environmental impact and it's gonna show all the existing features and what their overlay is doing and how it is disturbing those existing features.
Right.
So that's part of it. That's further in.
Okay.
Does anybody else have anything on setbacks or buffers?
What is the actual reason for a buffer? What's the, are you trying to gain?
Could you?
I understand what.
Yeah.
100 feet
You never.
from light, from the place for sound, what is? the-
So, yeah,
100 feet doesn't
so
do anything.
Usually the point of a buffer is a point of a buffer is a visual aspect and a noise aspect. Any type of things that are gonna disturb the adjacent property, but usually a vegetative buffer at a certain height is gonna help impede any noise, and it's gonna help any glare from lights from the facility or any sights. So it's,
100 feet of deciduous trees in the wintertime
Right,
There's
and,
nothing.
Right, right.
But they have an evergreen requirement.
Yeah, I get
It's evergreen
Right, but-
trees, so.
But to get something that big enough to help whenever.
I think it's,
That's specified.
it's specified buffer yard, screen, and it says shall include evergreen trees.
they can't all be the same species, there has to be.
Yeah.
Right, they all get the
6 feet high
general
minimum.
dashboard,
Yeah.
and they're all ash trees, and they're all dead in a month.
I don't know how much noise a data center makes. A lot. Just, okay, I go to Bradford County to hunt and they built all these oil wells up there.
Mm.
The oil wells don't make much noise, but they, have a pumping station. It's like a mile away, pumping water through a pipe like this. You can hear it for miles, 24 hours a day. I don't know if they need that for a data center. You know, you need a lot of water, so you need a big pump. So a couple 100 feet of deciduous trees.
You think
Really
250
gonna do
is
much.
too small?
I mean, you can require fences too. I mean, there's things like that, part of the screening buffer that you add a fence with it, but this is a minimum 6 feet high at planting, so then it gets bigger. You could do staggered buffering, like I said, anything to help. I mean, I'm just throwing stuff out there. I ain't gonna say.
That's a tree guy from way back.
So,
If you shut them down on the water thing, I think that's the way to get them.
Oh, that's one of the.
There is something here on water.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does say here, a dense visual screen at least 10 feet high within a 4-year time period is what they are required to have then, so.
Do you have an idea of available areas within Barrett Township right now that they are possibly looking at, and can you share that with me?
We haven't gotten any applications as far as who's looking at what.
Right,
We
but
do
if
have
you
a map of the industrial zoning, right, parcels that are in
I
that.
think,
What's the password? Which,
uh-oh.
Oh.
We had a picture of the zoning map here, but it went to sleep.
I used to have to keep hitting it every once in a while.
Oh, what is that? The reason we're trying to do this is to get.
There you go.
ahead of somebody coming in and say.
Is that coming up?
Right, well, that's what I was wondering, if these industrial areas that have them.
Did the TV just shut off?
What
Maybe
Probably
because
said
it,
shut off.
surrounding.
I think it said
That
this.
area, it's kind of-
ooh, then this went
Yeah,
out. Oh, there it is.
All the senior housing. Wisteria.
There you go.
gardens,
Okay.
Community
That's
Best
way.
way.
Yeah.
So when the township,
Yeah, that's
I was not a
bad.
supervisor when they had to create the
The
zoning
dark
map.
pink is.
But again, because you have to allow for every imaginable use, you have to have a zoning for industrial in Barrett Township. If there was a non-conforming use, say Reinhardt's, I know it's not Reinhardt's anymore, but Reinhardt's. Obviously, it's outside of any industrial zone, but the industrial zone was put where it was because it's on the train tracks. Right, so the train tracks in 390 made the most sense for, that's where our industrial will be because Bestway uses the train all the time. So, you know, transportation access to the site for industrial rather than saying industrial be up at Sky, you know, off of Skytop somewhere.
So is
it's not.
the thing, the industrial?
Yeah,
Yeah,
this,
this
this
really
color
dark.
paint right here, these and over through here are the industrial.
thing?
So all through
It
here.
made industrial and light industrial almost the same color.
That's why.
But it's the one toward the left.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know, these are all small, I think, probably too small, so.
But they're all more than 5 acres.
I don't know what the sizes of these parcels are down in here. I have no idea.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's. I think the majority of industrial. But
When I looked.
Also, a lot of
business.
A lot of that land,
Way
now,
wider.
further this way is gonna be very difficult to build on. Cliffs
Right.
and very wooded area.
And there are some in there that's preserved.
There's some that's preserved, right?
Yeah.
Well, that Pocono Heritage property, yeah.
Right, it's a
Yeah.
Pocono Heritage Land Trust property.
So,
So they can't take that away.
Right. But like the, you know, behind the homestead, behind the township maintenance yard, I mean, there's properties that are currently being used for that, for an industrial purpose that can always be sold and then converted to this purpose. And they would certainly be much greater than 5 acres.
Not that road has houses.
Yeah. Anything else on the setbacks? Yeah, anyone move on to that?
Okay,
So are we draw for the 250? Or do we want to?
let's see here, the next page 4, are you? I saw they did get into gated entrances, and then further on, it talks about having emergency access, set up for the fire company or for anybody, so that was further, because it did talk about here on page 4. One thing that's not in any of this is parking requirements. And I know that was in one of the other ones, and I think that was one of the things that Jackson Township did and Monroe County said about putting in parking requirements. So I think parking requirements maybe should be put in there.
Parking requirements and like refer to.
Well, usually
Building code on it?
parking requirements are usually based off of the ITE manual. A lot of the zoning ordinances and stuff represent that. They have a parking study thing, but these are so new, and that's what it said in the Monroe County thing, that there's nothing in the manual in regards to that. So you probably should put.
Probably not gonna be the.
No, they're not. I think they had here under the Monroe County thing, 1 space per 8,000 square feet of area to be accessed by employees. So, I mean, I just think that's something to take note about adding a parking requirement.
Yeah, what
What's that?
page that was on the Monroe County one?
It was the last page 2 of the review by the county. It was number 7 about the, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I went through that county letter and that I agreed with, what they had wrote there about a couple different items.
Okay, so we should incorporate something on parking.
Yeah. And speaking about the buffers and then woods clearing, the other thing Monroe County said about putting a maximum percentage of woodlands that can be removed for the data centers, that's a good one too. So, I made note about that one if you guys are talking about restricting some things there that conserve a certain percentage of the property. I know your industrial zoning has a maximum percent impervious and probably a maximum percent building coverage requirement, but then you can make another restrictive item there by saying you got to conserve like 60% of your site, or I don't know, to woods. And I don't really know where that number is either. So
The impervious is 70.
But that might be
Yeah.
better as a condition. Only because every site
True.
might be different.
That's
So,
true.
so if someone were to take over the old, peat operation, there wouldn't be any trees there.
You could do a caveat in this stating that minimum this percentage, or as per the Board of Supervisors during the hearings, they're what they say, Todd could put it in like that. I mean, probably when you have the hearings, you might want to have a checklist, a couple of those items that are the trigger items too.
Right.
So. Let's see here. Okay, that's with the woods and the parking. Let me go to. Okay, 4 gets into the water and sewage disposal stuff for the, and just, I mean, a lot of times the requirement to hook to public water and public sewer because of the demand of the water. And of course, there's only so many areas that you can do that with, and this is gonna keep going off anyway. But, so I was looking through this and just to give you an understanding, like 12, it says evidence of adequate water, sewage and disposal. And I was looking at this, and this is actually a very restrictive item, and I'll explain this to you, because the public water and sewer supply, they're just asking for a letter from the provider, so you have like PA American Water, they have a service area map, and that's what you're tying in. If you are outside of that service area, then you would have to, get an expansion of that service area. So in order to get an expansion of that service area, it would have to come into docket revisions with the Delaware River Basin Commission. So just understand that if they have already a map, and I don't know where their maps are and what they serve right now, I'm not really familiar with that. Right there to get into docket revisions is, they only have 4 meetings a year, and it takes a long time because I've been involved in that before. And same with withdrawals, and I don't know what the gallon per day withdrawal is when you get into docket revisions either. So it's basically a withdrawal from the watershed, and you can only have, I thought it was 10,000 gallons per day. Do you know that?
No, it's 100,000.
That's a docket revision then?
Well, you have
Is
to,
it-
right, if it's gonna be over 100,000 gallons per day, then you have to be on the Delaware River Basin Commission docket, but this is more restricted.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say, because I didn't remember where the threshold, I was gonna research that and I couldn't find that, but there is a gallon per day that you have to go to Delaware River Basin Commission and ask for those docket revisions then. So that's the only thing I didn't know. I was gonna check into that, because I saw the restrictions here of 100,000, so.
Yeah, well, that's what on page 5, 2A refers to that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and and I'm gonna tell you, they're saying here by you reading this, it's saying review and approval from the Delaware River Basin Commission. So for conditional use hearing, usually when you do conditional uses, they're more schematic and more things like that, but you're basically asking for an approval on that. So that's a
Right,
design thing.
And so that everybody understands what 2B references. Hamlet, I refer you to William Shakespeare. So to be or not to be? People are not happy here. Sorry. So 2B, consumptive use. So consumptive use is if you're gonna withdraw 100,000 gallons of water a day and you need a docket, and you're going to say that 20,000 gallons of that water is not gonna make it back into the ground or back into the watershed. That's what consumptive use means. It leaves this watershed and it doesn't come back to this watershed. So that's,
Yeah, usually the way that works is because where you withdraw your water is where you put it back in the ground as your sewage. So it's always a balance of your watershed. That's what they're trying to make you do in development. So a lot of times that's why they don't want you to hook up the public water and then do, sewage disposal on your property, because the water might be coming from a different area. So they want you to balance a watershed. So it's always drawing out the same area and putting back in. So what's happening here, he's saying is, yeah, if they're gonna take out more and they're not gonna replenish it, then it's a withdrawal from our watershed. So that is a restrictive thing too. So like I said, what this means though is anything with DRBC is a long process. So, and you're asking for it in a conditional use hearing. So that is a very big caveat right there. So that I like it. Does anybody have any questions with that one? Okay, so that's with your water and your sewer, getting into, and you're gonna be involved with DEP permitting too, with stuff like that too, especially if you're doing on-lot sewage disposal. There's restrictions once you go over 10,000 gallons per day. And just so you know, in gallons per day, a single household, DEP looks at as 400 gallons per day. So when you're talking 10,000 and 100,000, that's a lot of single family houses. So just in respect, so you understand that. Okay, so the next one is environmental impact assessment. And environmental impact assessments are usually always required in something of higher development. So even like a shopping center, sometimes they require environmental impact assessments. And that's what I was talking about earlier. It's like an environmental resources overlay. They make you sketch out what the existing steep slopes are, the woods are, where your streams are, where your wetlands are, where all your buffers are, and then how you're gonna try to save and go around those areas. So that's kind of what the environmental impact assessment is. And then it goes through items like that they need to document and to explain to you for the hearing, which is big noise, glare, light, visual obstacles that are coming from this facility too. Stormwater management plan. I mean, that's basically kind of requiring a full design of the stormwater too, in regards to the ordinance. Or another thing is these things, if they come in and they prove to you that it's gonna be designed through land development, but it's still a condition that they have to meet it too. So, you know, a lot of times they won't have to go through the full design. They just have to show that they're gonna be meeting it. And then it's a condition that carries through the land development. And then that they won't get it if they can't meet that condition. They can go through that whole land development process. If they're not meeting it, they're still not gonna get that approval then at the end. But the only other thing is when I went through these, a phase one environmental site assessment wasn't listed in there. And I know you've seen them, Daryl, before.
Phase one environmental assessment is usually required if there's potential known endangered species impact
Or, well,
or already existing environmental issues. Like
yeah,
asbestos. So you're doing a redevelopment of a site and it's old enough that it may have asbestos and stuff like that. So you would have to do a phase one environmental assessment to just say, yes, those conditions exist. And then you have to do a plan for abatement. Like if they were gonna tear a building down and there was asbestos, they can't just go tear the building down. Now they have to have a plan for how they're gonna deal with the asbestos, because asbestos is most dangerous when it's airborne.
the only
So,
other
things
thing,
like that.
the only other thing with phase one though, is you look at, you have to go to DEP and do, records, you pull records for any contaminations on properties. So the only other thing it would come into is if you have an old gas station that was near and there's a plume, like an underground plume, that advanced within that industrial zone. So when you're doing stuff with water and sewage disposal or water withdrawals, if there is a contamination in that vicinity or on that property, that might be good to know, because then it could affect you with water and sewer.
Yeah, I think
So-
it would come up just in the process. They would have to do an NPDI search.
Well, a lot of
Wouldn't
times,
they, as part of
a
their.
lot of times phase ones are only done by the financing, because it's a requirement of financing. Like, we don't require in the land development process, we don't require a phase one environmental site assessment. A lot of times it's because of the money with the banks
Sure.
require it, yeah.
Another
So-
expense.
But I've seen that in the,
Maybe we should.
environmental impact assessments. I've seen that in prior ordinances to
Yeah,
do
maybe
phase
we
one.
should ask Tom.
Sounds like something we might.
Yeah,
Would the railroad track trigger a, phase one?
I don't know, you have to, what they do is there's environmental science people that do that. They actually will go to DEP and all the records of any spills or contaminations, the old gas stations, underground tanks, anything like that, stuff that we might even not remember from. When they go and they pull it, that could be on records, and then they go and walk the site and look for if somebody was shooting on there and had it as a shooting range and nobody knew about it. I've had sites like that because of the bullets, the lead, yeah, and it goes into contamination. I mean, it's something that could actually trip up somebody is what I'm trying to say, because, you know, it could make a difference. So, but yeah, a lot of times, some of the old sites don't have the DEP, records, and then it's you going out and doing a site assessment, but they have to do a site assessment too and check for things like that. So.
So you're recommending to put it into phase one?
I mean, that's their call, but I recommend it. It's just because I've seen it before, and it's not a big deal. I mean, really, it's probably a $4,000 study. It's not a big
I don't think we
study.
should worry about money on there.
Yeah.
I think we should worry about.
Yeah.
Protected the township.
Yeah. It's just something I've seen before. It was something I've seen before in the, I mean, they have to do the PIND and the PHMC as an NPDS permit guideline. So that's gonna be part of the land development, but the phase ones I never really had in the land development part. Cause
For the record, I said NPD instead of PD.
yeah, sorry, it's acronym. So the PIND is the endangered and species and stuff, yeah.
National Pollution Discharge Limit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's a historical and museum commission thing for archaeological stuff, which is part of the NPDS too. So those both have to come into play because they're not going to do anything that's less than an acre of earth disturbance, I wouldn't think. So, I mean, the only way to get out of it is if it's under an acre of earth disturbance. So, I mean, that would be the only way to get out of it.
Yeah, the NPDS would trigger phase one.
What's that?
The NPDS would trigger phase one.
The
If it's near a railroad track or apple orchard, which we didn't have, potato farm.
And NPDS wouldn't do the phase one environmental site assessment. That's not part of a NPDS permit. So. Okay, let's see here, when I went through this, I think if that was my main comments.
A lot of the rest of the stuff that's on page 6 there is also required for their stormwater management approval.
Yeah, I think that's what I had going through.
And sometimes it's good to have this redundancy, so it says it in this ordinance, it says it in this ordinance, they can't say, oh, well, this ordinance didn't say it, so.
What's the building height requirement in industrial too?
Let's see.
This fire chief-
35.
Yeah.
Oh, it's only 35 feet?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Building height requirement, do we have?
Yeah, so she said the building height was 35 feet for industrial, so that's pretty low, because I didn't know about specifying something like that, but. I mean, yeah, it's only 35 feet. And then I don't know what, there was some other comments in Monroe County. Oh, yeah, that was the thing about the township is recommended to corporate language stating that any on-site power generation facilities would be considered as a separate land use and treated as such. Doing so would reduce confusion in land use decisions and potential interpretation issues. So, yeah, so on-site power, I don't know, I guess is that what they use solar then for more generators or nuclear? Okay, yeah.
Nuclear.
So that might be, you might want to put that in there too then.
Yeah, I would.
Cause you don't want them to pull it in as an accessory use, cause then that would trip you up. So,
In the county, on page 5 on the counties, they had a thing about power supply.
yeah, that's what I was looking at is the county stuff, yeah.
I think we should add that.
Oh, and you guys did have about a chain link fence in here too, I think, yeah.
I think the county mentioned having that fence inside the landscaping.
Yeah, that's what they had, yep. Yeah. Yeah. So that's really all I had. I don't know if you want to go through it in more detail or if anybody in the audience wants to. Audience. Or no, I didn't mean it like that. Sorry.
I did have one more thing that I saw that the county had. We have the fire protection plan, but no emergency management plan. And so in theirs, they had on page 5 down at the bottom, and then it's continued on page 6. A plan that's going to be reviewed by the local fire department and the emergency management services and look at access roads and things like that. I think that's something that we need to think about. Just because in this day and age, there's so many things that could go wrong.
I think the other thing on Patty's thing on emergency response and police, fire, is that the Monroe County had in their knock boxes, which the fire department's working on for commercial, businesses in town where it's 2 o'clock in the morning and Lewis's is not open, but there's a fire. Well, we're gonna break your door, well, versus a knock box where we can get a key and open it and be fine. I think there should be a requirement for these data centers to have that.
Yeah, I agree.
It is number page 7, number 15, that's mentioned in Knox files. Or Knox.
Yeah, I think on page 7, number 15, in the draft.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, it goes different.
But,
So this is definitely.
yeah.
I think
So that's the actual building, what is there, the gate?
But you have to have one for the gate
Go
too.
right through that gate, I'd say.
Unless it's a grant.
It has to be both. There
Yeah,
should be both.
Yeah, it says it has gates too here.
That's another gate stand?
Mhm.
It does, it does.
Yeah, it does say.
We can send the regional police through first. They got those cattle guards on the front of their vehicles now. Let's go into that. Sound abatement.
I have that. Yeah, that was is that their typical one that they did? Or that was? Or she got that one?
Yeah, and that's proof by the township.
Yeah, that one has.
That's for, like, who we would have? We would have, yes, yeah. We would like find someone and find them.
Now the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Robert just brought it, so off of PA is mainly about on the main drag, so if we
Yeah.
are back off Stanford and they have to put a well, is there anything to stop them from putting like 5 wells on the property?
So, I mean, you have isolation distances, the 100 foot, but you can put wells pretty close together and it's gonna be, I mean, they're gonna have to do, testing and stuff when they drill a well, do yields and stuff like that.
We limit that.
Oh, yeah, you could probably limit them, yeah.
So we say that,
Right, and that would be, they would be, if you're gonna drill 5 wells, you're probably proposing over 100,000 gallons a day withdrawal.
which they
So we
need,
definitely require
right?
DRBC docket.
Yeah, I mean, cause otherwise your 100 foot isolation distance is probably, I mean, cause there is things I've seen where, you can tell them a distance off of their property line, cause otherwise you can build and look at your adjacent properties and look at their, if they're full build out where their septics and their wells are, and then pull your isolation distances based off of that. But the problem is then if you have some older residential properties and if their septic systems are failing, and then now you're losing a portion of their area because a well was placed closer to that property line, and now you can't move and put a reserve area because you hit that 100 foot isolation distance. So yeah, then yeah, definitely.
Wells can't be in the buffer.
There you go, yeah.
They have 250 buffer
Yeah.
from the property.
That was a
Can't do it.
good one.
For like the sound study, it says approved by the township professional acoustical expert.
Yeah, I don't know. That's not. What did they have specific people that, yeah,
I'm just curious too.
I mean, you get hire those
What
people.
exactly that means? Or we just-
I mean, I know you can bring in the equipment and test it and everything. I mean, I know there's people you can hire for that. Or was that one?
That's on page 7, under noise control.
I don't think- Yeah.
Maybe
Professional
up to them
acoustic.
to find that professional. though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it just, it states
It
that
says
we're
the
responsible for
township
improving.
professional acoustic expert.
Oh, our.
Like it's saying,
Yeah.
professional is.
It should be a professional at their expense,
It does say a professional.
Yeah, this is a.
not a township professional.
Why don't they pay for your profession?
A third party.
Right.
Yeah, that's, there is no town.
I was almost gonna say, right, does our engineering?
Professional.
Oh, by the, it's inconsistent.
Maybe it's just by township.
Yeah.
You just say approved by the township. I mean,
Yeah, maybe like Hanover, who we can
Right.
back up, maybe have one.
Yeah, that's
We'd
what I
have
was
to
gonna
find,
say.
yeah.
But then do we need, we have to pay for that though.
Because they're already paying for one to do the test, and then we'd have to pay one to approve the test.
yeah, any services that you guys bring in, they have to pay for as part of their, agreements for anything when they submit, for any professional
All
services.
That they pay for, we have to retest and pay for it.
If you want to, yes. Cause they pay for all your engineering and solicitor fees, reviews and everything, so.
Right.
All right.
They have.
Understand the month. Macy, where it's, Monday through Friday, decimal, and a maximum nighttime of 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. So that's 24.
So we just think that it's two different levels.
Oh, you're
Drop-
dropping
drop
down.
and
Okay.
this.
Oh, I see, the price for the numbers. Yeah, yeah, I see. Oh, yeah, gotcha.
Lower the.
Okay, that's all I had.
The only other thing I noticed was when we were copying.
I mean, I'm sure this is gonna take a little bit of time anyway, cause Todd's gonna make some revisions and then you're gonna come back and talk about it again, right? So,
And the planning commission, we
Yeah.
need to get this to the planning commission by their next meeting.
By their meeting on the first,
oh, okay.
which if Todd makes these changes. Can the plan, it's Monroe County Planning and Barrett Township Planning.
Yeah, Monroe County. is-
And, well, those two can be at the same time.
Right.
Can we still be reviewing it while they are? is the question.
Well, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I thought Todd
But-
said it had to be a final draft, of the planning commission, like final from us to them.
Oh, yes. Well, that's if you're gonna ask for action to take on it, then yeah, it probably needs to be a final draft.
Planning commission's only suggestion.
They're both.
Yeah, but they still make
Even
it,
after if they make any suggestions towards us and we don't accept it, we can still change that, right?
yeah, exactly, there's suggestion. Yeah, you guys are making the final.
But we wanna,
So we
we wanna present the planning commission with what we think is our.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So this will go to them and then if we wanna even make.
Right,
it
so-
more.
All these changes that we've discussed
Yeah.
need to be made.
So all
before
of
we
these will
send
go
it
to Todd, yeah.
Mm-hmm,
Okay,
I
yeah,
think these will all go to Todd, we'll talk about it again,
yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then it'll go,
we can put it at the next meeting.
Yeah.
yeah, well, that's next week, so hopefully we can get them done by then.
One of the things I noticed on our page 2. At the bottom of the page, we have a definition for data storage, and then on page 3 at the top, it goes right to 302, but in the Jackson copy, there was a B. A was data storage center, and B was data center accessory use.
So you're saying maybe another definition?
So I think there needs to be another definition that we make.
oh, your definitions are above that though,
So this is above.
Yeah.
The amendment to, it's where. it's going.
yeah, section.
That's what that is, data storage center.
Yeah.
It's going to become G18, so what would be, it was an accessory use is gonna become something else?
Yeah, in the one we were looking at, they had a data center accessory use, and I don't know what the numbers would be.
You said that was what township?
Jackson.
It was on the Jackson.
Oh, so they're making another section for an accessory
Right.
use on an existing facility then.
So if there's already a data center, this is.
Or no, if there's some other use and then you're putting in a data center as an accessory use. to it. Yeah, so that's a good idea. Yeah,
We can have that.
So we have to figure out in our zoning what the number said. All that would be.
In timing of the essence with this, do you have an idea in your mind or have discussed among yourselves when you think that this is going to be something that you're going to vote on to adopt? Like, is it in a month? Is it in 6 weeks? Like, do you have an idea?
Given that both planning commissions have to look at it in a 30-day review period.
yeah, Monroe County, I think, has 30 days, I think, yeah.
We were hoping to get it to our planning commission to start on their October 1st meeting.
Right. So you're looking at November at the earliest that you could.
Oh, yeah, and then it has to be advertised. It
But-
has to be advertised.
Just separate.
November?
I think it's though, when they advertise it is when it's in that, like, once it goes after that.
Well,
I think it's advertised.
Where we can act on things.
Yeah, once it
First
goes to
third
advertise.
meeting of the month, we will have to officially vote on advertising that we are going to adopt in the future, this future date. And then there will be a final,
So the goal is
Draft.
by the end of 2025, no
Yeah.
matter
Yes,
what, it's gonna
absolutely.
be implemented.
And that's right.
Any other questions?
If you're not pollution or towers.
I'm sorry, can you step up here so we can hear?
It's a very silly question, so, but for those of us who care about 5G and
Nothing.
towers for storage, for data, for internet usage, that might impact our ear quality, is there any way to do anything about it? Will you ask that, Bryn?
Are you talking about the pollution and stuff?
That's in there.
Yeah, there's,
It's very close to our house, or restricted.
There's a lot of stuff in this ordinance that is,
Thank you.
yeah, they have to prove noise, even air quality, any type of pollution like that as part of the conditional use. And one thing to understand is if something is missed, it's a conditional use hearing. So a conditional use hearing will be advertised to the public. And I'm gonna tell you, everybody will be here, okay? And the board can put conditions of any conditions that are reasonable conditions on that. That's what a conditional use hearing is, above what's on this. So they can put other conditions on it. And I've done conditional use hearings, that's what I'm saying. So if they want to go a bigger buffer, they're gonna say like, okay, we see there's a lot of residential on this side or something we would rather have a 300-foot buffer on this. So that's what I'm saying, they can do things like that, so.
We don't want impact from their 5G towers, we can push them a little further than.
So that would be then the public, when they come to conditional use hearing, they can voice, that's part of a conditional use hearing, they can voice their concerns and the board is open to listen to that and then put conditions onto that, that then they could, so that they, and if they can't meet that, then they're not gonna be able to do the development there, so. I mean, it has to be like that they can't not develop it, that's the thing, like if they have to push the development a certain way or something, but they can't restrict it that they can't develop it, is what I'm trying to say too. There's a fine line there too, sorry.
Anything else on the data center? Ordinance? So I'm gonna talk about the sign ordinance, which we talked about at our last meeting, and we had some minor changes to that. We were hoping the planning commission would give us some advice on this, but given all the time constraints that are that they have, now they have data center ordinance, they have the property maintenance ordinance, we're not gonna give them the sign ordinance, because it was minor changes. It was there was a waiver that was missed in one area about non-conforming signs and the timeframe of that. There was also, section G was in 2 different spots, so that has to come out, that was years ago. And then removal of the language relating to political signs, so that's something we have to talk about. So it was a question of taking out all references to political signs, or can we still leave it in and just treat them as other signs as far as size and time of display? So we were under the impression to leave it.
I was under the impression that, well, we can't talk about what's written on political signs. I was concerned about the exempt signs that would be used for candidates that are running for an election. And the way it read was, you could put your signs up 30 days before the election date, and you had to take the sign and remove it if it was 10 days after the election. And I thought that was reasonable, because otherwise we end up with a lot of clutter, and sometimes if people lose, they abandon the sign, they don't bother going to get it, and it just stays there forever. This would give us the right to go through. If you've left it more than 10 days, we'd probably wait a month before we did anything, but we can eventually have the ability to remove that political sign. And it would only be the exempt signs that you don't need a permit for. It would be the same as when you have a realtor sign or a builder sign, we talked about the fact that they can advertise for 10 days after they finish. I thought the same should be for those exempt political signs.
But isn't that what Todd was talking about on, and I think Krista had mentioned it, it's where like if it's in someone's yard, you can't have them take it down, like, so if you had, you know, a Grand Hill figure sign in your lawn and it's in my lawn, Todd was saying that we can't tell them they have to take it down even if the election's over.
But we do for
I
the
think,
builders and the realtors.
right, but for political purposes, they were saying there was a whole court thing about it, that they went to court and got sued over it, and then we had mentioned about the township right away. To where if they were in that, we could take them down, but if it's in someone's personal property, that there was like lawsuits against the township for trying to take people's political signs.
I thought that was
Different, that's
than
how I understood.
those little electrical signs.
Yeah,
No?
sorry, Michael Allegretti, it's about who has the ownership of the physical sign. So with a realtor, it maps that to either that human being or the company that he or she works for. So you have someone against who you could enforce, right, if they don't remove the sign. But with the political sign, like if Grant or Grover had, I don't know, 100 signs across the community and one was on my lawn, Beth's lawn, someone else's lawn, who would you enforce against? Is it the person who generated the sign, right, Grant or Grover, or would it be the homeowner? So that's why that last meeting, which I was at, what Kelly was saying was the intent was you kind of can't mess around with stuff on people's lawns, political signs, but the kind of get around is the right of way, right? And you can enforce on them, what I think it's 15 or 16.
Right,
feet
and from the
center line.
From the center line.
So that was all Supreme Court stuff.
Right,
Yeah, probably
so
that.
that being the case, then we have to remove political sign verbiage in everywhere that it is. I think it's in like 3 different spots.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so if we have, the changes that we talked about at the last meeting, Neil Albert makes those changes for us. We can have a final draft of this, and again, that will be advertised and for public hearing again. So,
Okay.
okay.
So will we vote on that then at the next meeting? Okay,
Mhm. Yeah, I'm hoping Albert can get us this on it by then.
okay.
Yeah. And do you guys have anything else?
I don't.
I just wanted to let everybody know, I'm not sure if anybody is aware of the saga of the regional, EMS, but, back at the beginning of COVID, they put out an RFP to do, renovations to their main building up in Mount Pocono and got no bids. They put it out again and got no bids. They have finally awarded a contractor, a contract to put in the new ambulance building in Mount Pocono. So the original was to try and renovate what's there. If you're not familiar where it is, it's right at that light, right after the airport. That very first structure in that corner on the left with the Johnson & Johnson behind it. That's the main ambulance building for all of this area. The plan is to, completely tear it down and build from scratch, but they finally got that approved, so.
So
Hopefully-
the building's going in the same location?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so they're going to temporarily move that stuff to the Coolbaugh Township. So farther down 611, but also moving a little bit farther from here. But it'll be nice when it's finally done. If you were never in that building, then.
It was a.
Needed to be done. It needed, right. It was just a house that they were using.
Car garage house.
A two-car garage house and.
So that project is finally going forward.
No.
Any other questions, comments? Nope. Okay, well, thank you all for coming out.
Good.